Hello everyone and welcome into this part. We'll be doing this texture in Substance, so let me isolate this trail for you. Okay, so as you can see, we're kind of scaling this in Niagara from 0.2, I think, or from 0 up to the full size of it. And we'll be making this texture, which is trail number 4. Okay, so let's dive to Substance and let's try to recreate this. So I'm gonna start with Beveling noise. I'm gonna change its scale to maybe 5. I want to run cross section. I'm gonna change the drawing style to maybe gradient mirrored and histogram scan, as I want to have more control and basically isolate it. Something like this. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna copy this histogram scan because I will use this one as a mask for our tile sampler, which is next. So tile sampler, I want to change the pattern to disk. I'm gonna maybe change the amount to 10 by 10, position random, and maybe offset 0.5, and position random to the max, which is 10 by default. I want to run scale maybe to 2, and I'm just going to plug in this to the mask map input of my tile sampler. I'm going to scroll down and actually going to use this mask right here, but I want this to be inverted because I want to subtract those parts from the main trail, something like this. And now I'm just going to blend it and use the subtract on my blend, and we get basically something like this. If you don't like the shapes, feel free to experiment with the scale. I just want a little bit erosion on this one. Maybe we got too many discs actually in the tile sampler, so maybe I'm gonna get back to maybe 6 and now play with the scale. And obviously, if you're not getting the shapes that you want, maybe try different position random value. So maybe I'm gonna keep it that one. Okay, and next I want to run it through Bevel, because what I want to do, I want to get rid of the center bit of that texture. So Bevel, go into the minus area, and then histogram scan. And now I'm just gonna blend it with the subtract mode on our original texture. And we get basically something like this. And we can go back and maybe start tweaking the contrast or even the position, so we get only the outline of it. Actually, you want a little bit more of this gradient data, so I'm just gonna keep it like this. The next bit is I'm just gonna run it through warp with Beveling noise, so we're gonna get a little bit more variation in this. Obviously the scale is way too high, so something like this. I just wanna warp it just a little bit, maybe even 0.5. I want to try blur, but maybe let's try a different one, directional one, but yeah, I'm not sure if that gives us what we want. Although I kind of like directionality of it, so I'm just going to keep it like this with a low value, maybe 6, and run it through another blur, but this time it will be blur HQ grayscale. Quality set to 1, maybe intensity just a little bit, like maybe set to 1. I'm gonna run the histogram scan next, see if I could get some interesting shape there, like those ones for example, because if you want a very subtle trail, maybe that's why you want just the shapes. So I think maybe you could experiment with that texture in Unreal, or maybe in your game engine. Let's see if that's what you like. So I'm just gonna keep it this one here. And now maybe I'm gonna attempt to create a double trail out of this texture. So transformation node. Whoops, I'm just gonna copy, paste this one with an offset. And I probably want to offset it on the y-axis as well, somewhere around here, so that will be minus 1.5. And that one will be set to 0.15. And I'm gonna blend those together. If I'm gonna do add, you can see I'm getting those highlights here and I really don't want them. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna subtract those two, and then I'm gonna blend the subtracted version with this one. Okay, so they still are on top of it. Yeah, you can see this one is still on top of that one. However, it doesn't create this highlight, a very bright highlight on this one. So I think the values are normalized that way. Okay, let's try add some colors to it. So I'm just gonna use gradient map. Add like maybe orange. Maybe let's try to get the blue. So that'll be very bright blue, and in here maybe we'll try something like this. I think I want to add a bit more highlights to this one, so maybe I'm gonna use that one for my highlights. So I'm just gonna blend it with this one, set it to add, although it doesn't work because we need this transformation to be the same. So as you can see, this might work, and we might want to blur it after, just in case if we just want a bit more softer values. And we have a separate control now for those highlights. And I think we can do exactly the same thing here. So I'm just going to copy and paste this transform and run this histogram scan and there. Copy and paste my blur and add those highlights at the top. So we're gonna plug this in now. Here we can see we got like a clearly white highlights there now. You can modify the graph a little bit to get what you want, but I just want a little bit of those highlights on that trail. And now I'm just gonna add glow. I'm gonna pick something a bit more blue and start modifying the values. To get maybe something like this. Obviously, feel free to just copy this and use a different color. So maybe let's try to use orange, as this could be, I don't know, a fire trail maybe. And in our glow, I'm just gonna use orange or maybe even red. I think orange works a little bit better. And basically this is what we get. Okay, so I'm only gonna export this one, and also I want to export a single trail just to see what we could get. So I'm just gonna run it through transformation like this. I'm gonna copy, or actually I want to add those highlights to here. So blur and set it to add. Now I'm just going to control those highlights because again just want a little bit, and we got a single trail, so I can plug this here and I get a single trail now. So now we could go back to the very beginning, to the cross section actually, and see if we could get better shapes by modifying just one slider. Okay. If you want a little bit better erosion, you could also tweak the tile sampler, but to be honest, I'm just happy with the one I've created. So I've got those two trails. I'm going to export them now into the engine just to show you what we just made. Okay, so this is the original texture I showed you in the beginning of the video. Okay, which is that one, and now I'm just going to replace it with the one we've just made. So yeah, those two basically, a single trail and the double trail. So let me just drag this into the slot, and as you can see, I think it looks really cool. I think it looks even better than the original one. So let me get the double trail now. Yeah, I think so. I think we could do better job on the erosion here, because I really don't like those blue parts that are here. But overall, the movement and the shape of it, I think looks really cool. But I think I prefer the single one. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's the end of part 4. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. And yeah, if you create any of your trails, and feel free to just send them over. I would love to see what kind of setup you got in Substance. But yeah, thanks for watching.